Okay, so today we're going to learn how to play this game called Capture the Circle. So I have all these circles, and the first thing I notice is there's one that's one whole, and we kind of see that that's 1 out of 1. 1 over 1 is the fraction one whole, right? Then we have a bunch of circles cut in half, then cut in thirds, then cut in fourths, fifths, all the way down to cut in sixths. So you kind of might notice that as the fractions are cut into, or the circles are cut into more pieces, those pieces are getting smaller. So as the denominator gets bigger, the fraction piece is getting smaller. So to play this game, you're going to play with 2 people, and you need dice, and you need 2 different color pencils or markers or crayons. And each person will pick their own color. Okay, so I'll go first. Well, actually, we could roll dice to see who's going to go first. So I'm actually going to play against. Does anybody want to play against me? Yeah, I'll play against the class. Okay, here's my dice. I rolled a 5. Should we say high roller gets to go first? You guys rolled a 3. Okay, perfect. I get to go first. So I'm going to roll 2 dice and then make this into a fraction. So usually if we want a proper fraction, we would have the small number would be the numerator and the bigger number would be the denominator. In this case, I have 4 fourths. Okay, I'm going to pick the color orange to be my color, and I get to color in 4 fourths. But hey, wait a minute. I could also split it up. The goal here is if we capture the circle, we have to get over half of the circle. So if I already color in 1 fourth, 2 fourths, 3 fourths, I've actually captured this circle. So if I put the 4 fourths, the fourth, the fourth here, and I have the whole circle, that's great. But I might want to just do some of this circle so that eventually when it's my turn again, I could try to capture this one. So this one is already mine because I have over half. If I had only colored in 2 of my fourths, notice that would be an equivalent fraction to half. So we could also include equivalent fractions here. And I'll show you how that's going to work. Okay, now you're going to roll next. I'm going to roll for you. And you get 2 thirds. So if we're playing proper fractions, let's keep them proper. We'll have the numerator be 2, the denominator be 3. So if I see here is a circle that's already cut into thirds, that denominator of 3 is telling me how many pieces the original was cut up. And then the numerator tells me how many I get of those pieces. So I get 1/3 and 2/3. No, you get that. Sorry, that's the classes. Can we tell? Can you see that 2/3 is over half, is bigger than half? So that one is definitely captured. You have captured that circle. Now it's my turn. I'm going to roll 2 dice. Oh, I got 2/3 also. So I definitely don't want to. I could end up taking this one, but you already captured this one. So that'd be a waste of my 1/3. So I'm going to go ahead over here and take 1/3. 2/3. Now it's your turn. You roll the dice. Okay, we have 2 fifths. So 2 fifths, if we go down to our fifths, the denominator tells me the original piece was cut into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. That's what a fifth means. And then I get 2 of them. The numerator tells me, because I'm basically going 2 over 5 if I were to write that fraction. So here's 1/5, 2 fifths. Did I Oh, wait, is it? I can't remember whose turn it is now. I think it's your turn. Did you capture this circle? No, because why? It's
This.
yeah.
We need for this.
And so this is a way for us to really see what does the fraction look like? What does it mean? Okay, now I think it's my turn. I'll pick up the orange pen. I get only 1/5.
Ask a
And
question.
yes,
Could we have gone
into 2 separate
1/3
circles?
and 1/2?
Oh, that's a great question. Let's table that question for a moment. Okay. Well, actually, no, I want to answer that question now. So you're saying, I'm just going to get a little
On the
scrap
last
piece of
roll.
paper. On the last
2/5.
roll, 2 fifths. You got 2 fifths. Is that the same thing as, what were you saying I should add together?
And
1/2 and 1/3. Well, let's look at the pictures. Here's a half, right? Here's a third. If I were to add a half and a third together, is that the same size as 2/5? And no, that's a great question because that is a common misconception. If we want to add, actually, we can even use these circles to add 1/2 and 1/3.
oh, because it's still 1/5.
Well, I was saying here, this would be 2/5, but if we add these two fractions together, what do we actually need to do in order to add them? Yes, and what's the common denominator going to be? 6. So if I multiply this by 3/3 and this one by 2/2, I'm multiplying by 1/2. That's the same thing as 1. So I'm making equivalent fractions. It doesn't change the value. So here we get 3/6 plus 2/6 is equal to how many 6?
5.
And you can actually make those equivalent fractions. Let's say you rolled a 1/2, okay? If all of the halves were filled up, you could color in 3/6. Here, I'm going to turn the paper so you can see the 6. So 1/2 is the same thing as 3/6. And we kind of can see that with the fraction circles, you can see that equivalency and why you can't just add the denominators, right? You actually have to multiply because you actually have to cut the fractions into smaller pieces. You have to cut the pie up more. And if we did 1/3, hold on one second, 1/3, this would be the same thing right here as 2/6. Can you see the size comparison and how they're the same? I mean, they're not the same configuration. So, but there's your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 when you add these two together. So we have to, the reason why we have to have a common denominator, what we can see hopefully from the picture is when you have two different denominators, what does it mean about those fraction pieces? It means they're actually different sizes, different denominations, right? Like paper money, it all looks the same. You care if it's 100 or if it's 1. So you have to look at the denomination, right? What's it worth? A half is a lot more than a 1/6, right? And then you can actually see that the 1/2 plus the 1/3 is not going to be equivalent to 2/5. Okay, so this is basically how capture the circle works. You just keep going. If you run up against a situation where you run out, you can do those kind of equivalent fractions, or you can re-roll. You'll kind of get, once you keep going back and forth, all the circles will end up being taken up. In the end, you count up, you only get a circle if you capture more than half. So if someone comes along and shades in this other half, that's a tie circle and no one's won it, okay? Or you could both have won it, whatever you want to say. Okay, do you want to count 0 or do you want to count 1? Interesting. You know, instead of saying it's a tie and you both lose it, you'd say it's a tie and you both win it as a counting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it'd be the
Or
same.
it's 1/2.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions on that? Check it out.